Greetings, family. It's your brother Landon X. This is Nation Town TV. We're going to deal with this Ice Cube situation. Should we cancel Cube? That's the question. That's the issue. We're going to get right to it. Let's get it.
I was told to deliver this message.
And we back, dear family. This is your brother Landon X, and this is Nation Town TV Live. And we're gonna go ahead and say that this is also the next episode of Expose. Y'all know these past couple of weekends I've been doing the Expose series, and I've been focusing lately on, what I call the 3 steps of separation. But I think this is an important aspect of separation when you think about it. And we got to expose this meaning to get to the root or the nature of a thing, or look closely into a thing. So let's expose this whole controversy about our brother Ice Cube and whether or not we should cancel him, whatever that means. But let's look into it. But before we get into it, let me first start off in the proper fashion. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who appeared to us in the person of Master W. Fard Muhammad, to whom praises are due forever, plus 1,000 days as far as I'm concerned. I further bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Muhammad is his messenger. Now, that is with all due respect and love and gratitude for Prophet Muhammad ibn Abdullah, peace be upon him. But the Holy Quran promised me and promised you in Surah 16 and 36 that certainly a messenger would be raised for every nation. And the messenger for this nation is none other than the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the only way I know to even tell you that is through the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And those 3 great names, I greet you in the words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. So we dealing with Cube. Ice Cube, man, he been on fire he's been causing a lot of controversy this whole pandemic. You know, he got the he got the Sunni beard popping off, man. He you know, he's been really rubbing a lot of people the wrong way and the right way. And this is kind of the culmination of it. For those who are not aware, I don't know what rock you've been under, but Ice Cube is essentially, he put something together called the contract with Black America. Instead of just speaking French, as I call it, saying we need to do this, we need to do that. Our brother Cube essentially went full speed ahead with an actual contract for Black America, where he is proposing an actual agenda, a black agenda. I've heard a lot of black folks talk about agendas. What about the black agenda? Nobody's getting my vote until we have a black agenda. Which candidate has the black agenda? And then the question was raised, and it was raised quite well by another rapper by the name of Killer Mike, who, by the way, just endorsed and started a digital online bank, putting his time and his money where his mouth was. But he made the point that we got to sit down and actually come up with that agenda and put it to either candidate or any candidate. Some people ask the question, who is Ice Cube to come with an agenda for us? Listen, let me just say this. If you're black and you've been black for longer than, hell, 15 years in America, you have the right to at least present a black agenda, because you've been here long enough to see the devilishment and the improper and unfair and unjust treating of the black man and woman in America, to be able to say, listen, we deserve this, we deserve that. Every black person has that right, regardless of what their title is and what they do, because those who have these established titles have failed us. The doctors of law, the politicians, the leaders, what have they brought to the table? If you hire an electrician to come and fix your electricity, and 30 days later, you, after paying him thousands of dollars, your lights are still off. Now you have to listen to whoever else claims they know what to do with the electricity. So that's the situation that we in. We're listening to an entertainer, but who also happens to be a father, who happens to be an artist, who happens to be a successful businessman that is employed. And I happen to know some of the people black people that he's employed. So he's been black enough, long enough, and successful enough, and true to that enough, in order to at least have an opinion. So he's got this contract with Black America. First of all, let me shout out to everybody chiming in. Please hit me up with your comments and and even questions. I'm not going to pretend that I'm only going to be on so long. I'm just going to let the chips fall where they may. And it might be kind of short, so I might not be on long, but I got to deal with a couple of things on this. Shout out to Sister Khadijah Muhammad Ali, Brother Lakeem, Brother Jerome, Flex, Blakely. Definitely hit us up with your questions and comments. Let me just say, Brother Lakeem says Ice Cube isn't the problem. It's the people that lack understanding. And that's what we're going to get into. We're going to get into, because first of all, what I haven't seen, I've seen a lot of opinions on this contract with Black America. I've seen a lot of opinions on Ice Cube as a person. And see, that's where we got to get better. We got to get out our feelings. Good or bad, we got to get out our feelings. If you like Ice Cube, if you think he deserves to be able to say this, if you like what he's saying and what he's done, still step back from your feelings and make sure that you're operating on actual facts. Make sure that you're not operating on some issue you have with Ice Cube that dates back 15, 20, 30 years. Make sure that it's not based on his gender. Make sure it's not just based on which political party he presented this to, when in all actuality, he presented it to the world. He presented it to the world. He didn't exclude anybody on this. But first of all, let's go to the root of that name, contract with Black America. Now, if you are politically aware, and let me say something, especially those to the believers that are watching, or those who are just sympathetic to the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has never, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has never called on the believers in the Nation of Islam to specifically vote for a particular candidate here or there. However, they have both, hold on for a minute while I pull something up. Neither one of them has ever told us to be politically ignorant. So I implore all the believers to pay attention to the news. An easy way is to just make sure you're reading the Final Call newspaper. It covers everything that's going on in the world. Literally. But don't be politically ignorant. Just because we don't believe that voting is the end all and be all, that it has any power at all. Okay, voting is one thing. Being politically aware is another. And there are local measures and things and Senate bills that come up under our nose that we need to be aware of. Shout out to my brother, two brothers. First of all, my mentor, brother, Western Regional Student Minister Abdul Malik Saeed Muhammad, and my brother in arms here in Mosque 27, brother Reza Muhammad. Those two brothers, in my opinion, are foremost in keeping an eye on many of the laws that are being cooked up by our enemy, especially when it pertains to our people and pertains to things like vaccines and the like. So we're taught not to worship the polls, not to think that voting is going to get you out of anything that you're in. But we're taught to make sure that we know what's going on politically. So when I first heard that terminology, contract with Black America, being that I've always followed the news since I was a child. You know, my mother would always watch those Sunday morning political talk shows. So I always followed politics. So that started to ring in my ear as familiar. And if you remember, in the 1990s, Newt Gingrich presented something called the contract with America. Newt Gingrich is, of course, a Republican politician who's held office several times. He's ran for president several times. But in this contract with America, he's calling for many of the typical Republican mandates, you know, tax reform, welfare reform, an emphasis on family. A lot of the things on paper that he brought forth, you know, made a little bit of sense for the most part. But that was an attempt by him to make sure that and this is the thing, Newt Gingrich made sure that in this so-called contract with America, that he presented it to both parties. This is a white man. This is a politician. This is a Republican. He made sure he brought it to both parties, even though he's a Republican. And there were Republicans who disagreed with some aspects of it, and there were Democrats who agreed with it. So this contract with Black America is what Brother Ice Cube, his mother named him O'Shea Jackson. I believe O'Shea is a biblical name, or it may, I believe it's either a biblical name or it has a Kemetic origin. But that's his actual government name. Brother O'Shea brought this to us. He brought it to the people first and foremost. Let's be very clear about this. He brought it to the people first. And most people, especially Black people, I don't think we really focused on it or even read it. I haven't seen anybody deal with what's actually in it. in Nation Town TV, man, you know how we get down. We're going to actually deal with it. Now, first thing I want to touch on, before we get into opinions and whose side you on, you got to know what's on that side before you pick a side. If you go to contract with Black America, I think it's .us, might be .com. The first thing it gives you is this official summarized contract. So it's a summary. You know, Cube knows his people. He know we don't like to read. So he hits you with a summary first. So you won't get bogged down by thinking, oh man, I got to read a whole constitution. No, he gives you this summary first. And check out the summary. He says that citizens and lawmakers both, we are joining to demand the contract with Black America be addressed immediately. Now listen to this, to finally create the more perfect union all Americans deserve. The more perfect union that all Americans deserve. Now that right there also, you know, rang in my ear. Bringing up that more perfect union. Ice Cube attended a very substantial event on October 16, 1995, called the Million Man March. And one of the first things the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan mentioned in that Million Man March was that claim in the founding documents of this country that we should be on a path, or that America should be on a path of a more perfect union. Let's listen to the minister as he speaks on this.
And the rejected to become the cornerstone and the builders of a new world. And so our brief subject today is taken from the American Constitution in these words: toward a more perfect union. Toward a more perfect union. Now, when you use the word more with perfect, that which is perfect is that which has been brought to completion. So when you use more perfect, you're either saying that what you call perfect is perfect for that stage of its development, but not yet complete. When Jefferson said toward a more perfect union, he was admitting that the union was not perfect, that it was not finished, that work had to be done. And so we are gathered here today not to bash somebody else. We're not gathered here to say all of the evils of this nation, but we are gathered here to collect ourselves for a responsibility that God is placing on our shoulders to move this nation toward a more perfect union.
All praises due to Allah. So he broke down that there is a need for a more perfect union. And even the founding slave masters of this nation, I said it right, founding slave masters, because all of the so-called founding fathers were either slave masters or sympathetic to slavery, chattel slavery. They admitted, they knew that this was not a perfect union, because they were standing on the blood of slaves, standing on the blood of our Native American family. So they knew it was not perfect. So Cube is calling on this more perfect union through this contract with Black America. And I got to emphasize again, stop asking the question, is he qualified to ask this? Those who you think are qualified, or who you even voted for as qualified, have failed us. Even the one brother who looked like us, that lived and took up residence at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, failed. in dealing with the black agenda. In fact, he never even attempted it, never even claimed that he would. I watched his campaign closely in 2007 and 2008. Barack Obama never even claimed that he would go after a so-called black agenda. So those who you think are qualified have dropped the ball or ignored the ball altogether. So that means somebody else who does not have the letters, who does not have the titles, who does not have the qualifications has to stand up. That's usually how it works. I remember growing up in my mama's house, and it was indeed her house. She would probably tell me 2, maybe 3 times to clean up my room. And if I failed to do it, I would come home one day after school and she will have cleaned my room. But see, she's got her own special way of cleaning up rooms. She threw away everything that was sitting on the floor. Video games, some of my favorite clothes, some of my favorite magazines. I owned every issue of The Source, every issue of Vibe. She threw all that away. Threw it all away. Didn't stop to ask if this was valuable or that, because I had my chance to clean it up for myself. And I dropped the ball and failed. So therefore, somebody else came in and cleaned it for me and did it the way that they saw fit. So you can miss me with the whole, is he qualified? Hell, we all qualified. How long you been black if you black? How long you been Aboriginal if you Aboriginal? So that gives them the qualifications right there. But let's go deeper into this, because I really want to actually go over the contract. Again, not the feelings. I'm not interested in the feelings. You can miss me with the feelings. You can miss me if you're a fan of Ice Cube. If you loved America's Most Wanted. If you love, Lethal Injection. I don't care. I loved all that too. I was cool with that too. Bootlegs and B-sides. That's one of my favorite. That's cool. But let's talk about the actual issue at hand, because I noticed that's the only thing he's standing on, but nobody's actually talking about that. Here's another aspect of it. Here's the first step that he's calling on. He's calling on a bill to guarantee black opportunity and representation. Black opportunity and representation. Once again, I got my ears ringing. Black opportunity and black representation. Let's read it real quick before I tell you why my ears are ringing. Some of y'all probably already see where I'm getting at. It says to adopt a plan of neo-reconstruction to redress past wrongs systematically imposed on black Americans economically throughout many generations that has resulted in a wealth gap. Now, the reason why this rang a bell just on reading it is that almost all of this contract, all the points, I believe it's about 13 points, reminds me of something that us believers and even sympathizers of the teachers of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad are very, very familiar with. And that is the Muslim program. The Honorable Mr. Lewis, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, brought us this program, and it was originally brought forth in the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. It can be found in every issue of the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. And when the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan resurrected the Nation of Islam, he made sure that this exact same program was in every issue of the Final Call. The Final Call. The same Final Call that you see our brother reading right there. Shout out to all the brothers in that picture, including right there to his immediate left. That's my training captain, Captain William Muhammad. Back in the day, all praises due to Allah. So this proves right here that Cube knew what he was doing. And it proves what path he was following when he came up with this. This is why, to my brothers in the nation, it's so important to make sure that we distribute that Final Call. You never know whose mind you touching. You never know who is reading it. Even if they don't run to the mosque, they don't fly to Islam, as we say. You never know what kind of seed that you're dropping. And here's why this reminded me of the Muslim program. Read this right here. at the very top. This is point number 3 of what the Muslims want. We want equality of opportunity. There go that word. We want equal membership in society with the best in civilized society. Number 4 says we want our people in America whose parents or grandparents were descendants from slaves to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own, either on this continent or elsewhere. So this tells you right here that Cube is dealing directly on the inspiration of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Directly with that inspiration. And keep in mind that in Message to the Black Man, that wonderful book that I call the Black Man's Bible, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad calls on us to put the Muslim program to Congress. Put the Muslim program to Congress. Straight like that. This is what our brother is doing. This is what our brother is doing. But let's go deeper. We ain't done yet. Because like I said, I really want to dig into this so we can know what it is we're accepting and rejecting. And that's also in the Muslim program. He wants black people to have the right to accept or reject his teachings and to accept or reject this program. Now let's go further into it. He talks about federal funding of baby bonds. Now this is interesting because a lot of people are coming at Ice Cube essentially because they don't like the slave master that accepted his offer to discuss this contract. They don't like the fact that it was a Republican president, sitting president, which is what we should. We should want whoever is the sitting power, whoever is the sitting president, to listen to whatever it is that we have to say. But listen to this. It says, pass federal program providing every child with a government-funded trust account at birth, starting with a $1,000 contribution as proposed by Senator Booker and Representative Presley. Wait a minute. Who are they talking about? Senator Booker and Representative Presley. This is for my hardcore Democratic slaves, Democratic voters out there who think that the Democratic Party is synonymous with black people. What he's promoting here is something that was brought up by two, a brother and a sister who are both Democrats. That's Ayanna Presley on the left, and that's brother Cory Booker on the right, who also ran for president this past year. So that proves right there that Ice Cube ain't politically tripping. He ain't set tripping politically. This is about our people. This ain't about no political party. We already played that game. We've been playing that game too long. You already played the plantation game, the party plantation game. You didn't play that. You done went back and forth with that even before you had the right to vote. Like that, I saw a meme on social media that said, we didn't vote to get the right to vote. So that tells you right there that the power is not in voting. But this right here that I just showed proves that Ice Cube is not tripping on political party, because he's highlighting something early in this contract that was brought to you by two black Democrats. Two black Democrats. But let's go further. Federal Reserve and government pensions. For qualified black Americans, Federal Reserve to allow a one-time interest-free loan for home ownership. The Fed is to ensure banks and institutions it oversees comply with bank lending reform. Fed to adopt modern monetary theory with the goal of full employment and avoidance of actual inflation. Let's go further. Finance oversight, a banking commission or even a cabinet and sub-cabinet post will be set up to overlook and report on black and minority lending and housing. Let's keep going. Okay, we already dealt with the baby bonds. Personal data and credit. Now I like this one. I really like all of it. I can't find issue with anything and anybody that's intelligent, even if you're not black. How can you find issue with anything that's in here? These are all the things that when we say black agenda, we probably don't even realize what we're actually saying because we don't really understand the political language. As it says in our lessons in the Nation of Islam, we have to speak clearly the people's language if you're going to communicate with somebody. So not only did he follow the instructions of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad to bring something to the government, but he's speaking their language. He's talking about subcommittees and sub-cabinets. He's talking their language, so they can't claim, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, I don't think that's realistic. These are things that are already being done. Just like the contract with Black America itself is basically a play on words from a contract with America that the white man himself brought to the government in the 90s. So let's talk about this actual personal data and credit. Most states publicly release bulk data about arrestees unchecked. Like the 1970 Fair Credit Reporting Act regarding credit data, there must be guidelines regarding arrest records that allow similar privacy and accuracy protections and the right to dispute and correct inaccurate data. No matter what your credit situation is looking like, you have the right to dispute it. You have the right to keep it private. You have a right to contact and know who is distributing your information. Whenever somebody pulls your credit report, that information is given to you. But there are people who can pull up the arrest record or the legal record of someone, and they not even know, or not even know why. After the 1994 crime bill that your boy Joe Biden brought, that is a necessity in our community. All these brothers with trumped up charges, pun intended, trumped up charges, you should know who has record of that and who's pulling that record. I know brothers who have records from the 80s and the 90s, things they may have did or didn't do, or maybe they did it, but it was trumped up. They have something called enhancements, with just your affiliation with a certain gang or alleged affiliation, which the enemy has abused. And that was a big story in LA last year, where they found out that they were illegally putting gang enhancements on brothers who weren't even affiliated. So you have situations like this that all stem from the crime bill. So he's dealing with every angle of this. If you love your people, you have to understand and love this contract with Black America. Just put your feelings on the side. Now here's a big one. Prison reform. Privately run prisons will be abolished. I'm going to say that again. Privately run prisons will be abolished. Prison labor disallowed without consent, and non-violent offenders incarcerated for 10 years or longer will be freed if good behavior standards are met. All prisoners for marijuana possessions will be freed. I mean, come on. You got a dispensary on every corner, even in the hood. So now you saying now they got McDonald's types of dispensaries. I forgot what it's called, but there's one dispensary that I passed by. It looked like an Apple store. It was so high tech and commercialized. So you have white people right now, yuppies, the same ones that are gentrifying our communities, and they living off of weed money. While your cousin Tay-Tay and them doing football numbers over weed. The same weed. But you got a problem with Cube because you don't like the slave master that he talked to. And he didn't actually even meet Donald Trump. He said he's never met Donald Trump a day in his life. Oprah sat up there cheesing with Donald Trump. All your favorite politicians, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton cheesing ear to ear, Cheshire Cat grin with Donald Trump. Cube never even met him. He contacted his campaign. No, actually his campaign contacted him. The Democrats contacted him as well. They said, oh, okay. They gave him that typical pat on the head that a Negro loves, but a black man has no time for. That, oh, you know, just vote for us and we'll see about it. We'll see about that. We'll check in on it. Yeah, just vote for us after the election. We got you, Cube. We love you. Hey, when's the next Friday coming out, buddy? You know, they know how to butter us up on a biscuit and a piece of chicken. They know how to do that. The Trump campaign said, oh, okay, let us take a look. And then they called him back and said, listen, we got this platinum plan, and we're going to use some of the things that you're putting out there. And then it was put in the media, and I'm going to get into this in a minute. It was put in the media like he sat down with Trump and ate a piece of chicken, you know, sniffed some dope and high-fived each other and said, hey, let's go get it. And like he's walking around with a Make America Great Again hat or something. No, sir. That's not how it went down. Let's keep going, because I really got to deal with these points so we know what we're dealing with. If you mad at them, so we know what we mad at. But I got to go back to this. The Muslim program. We talked about prison reform. This is what the message said way back then. We want freedom for all believers of Islam now held in federal prisons. We want freedom for all black men and women now under death sentence in innumerable prisons in the North as well as the South. This brother's been reading his Final Call newspaper. Please believe. Judicial reforms. Eliminate mandatory minimums and 3 strike laws. Come on, man. This is banging directly on Joe Biden and his crime bill. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice reform through stricter guidelines and greater oversight over police departments. Department of Justice can be sued for non-compliance. So that tells you right there that as it stands right now, you cannot sue the Department of Justice for non-compliance. You can't even sue them for something that counts as double jeopardy. You could claim, you can get deep and say that those that are serving time for marijuana offenses right now, that's illegal. You can go to the Supreme Court and put up that fight. But if a contract like this was accepted by any president and signed into law by any president, then that would immediately eliminate that. We got a couple more before we go any further, and we're going to touch on the comments and questions. I ain't forgot about the Nation Town family. Just a few more I want to cover. FCC licensing of public airwaves. Broadcast networks will be required to air black produced content equal to the total content and work measured by time. I feel you on that, Cube. You know, that right there is a long shot. But, you know, that's what they do in politics. You know, when they do present laws, they have things called pork barrel spending. And that's when they just kind of throw little stuff on top right before the bill passes. Sometimes that stuff gets knocked off. Some of it, sometimes it goes through. But when you are presenting something to the powers that be, you gotta throw the whole, you know, you gotta throw the baby out with the bathwater. You gotta throw everything you can in there. I would never see that going into play, and I'm not sure if I would want that to go into play, because a privately owned broadcast network should have the right to show whatever the hell they want to, because it could backfire on black people. For example, you know, NFA Studios that we have in the Nation of Islam, which is about to expand to a more YouTube-like format pretty soon. Nation Town TV, you know, doforself.net. And they say, oh, you got to have some white people on your network. Since we got to have you on CNN, and we got to have you on MSNBC, and we got to have you on Fox, you got to have Becky and Karen and Craig and them on on Nation Town. I don't know if I'm feeling that. But hey, like I said, I appreciate the effort, Q. I see where you're going with this. And this also goes back to the struggles that he had recently trying to buy his own sports network. And he got, they brick walled him on that for obvious reasons. But then he goes further. Confederate monuments and institutions, elimination of all Confederate statues and uses or display of Confederate flags on government grounds or property with public access, rename all streets, schools, public structures. The interesting thing about this, family, is that this plays right in what so-called Black Lives Matter has been doing, tearing down all these Confederate monuments. But these are the same people that are hating on Cube right now. Same ones who are calling him a sellout. And here he is. He's taking what you say you believe in right to both candidates. How could you have a problem with that? That either tells me that you're not sincere in how you feel about that, or you just playing a game, or somebody's playing you as a political pawn, as a political Trojan horse. Black Lives Matter, and we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter in a moment, because Ice Cube has been nothing but supportive of Black Lives Matter. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was supportive of Black Lives Matter back in 10-10-15. He called them the future leadership of our people. That was back when they had more straight heterosexual black men involved, like our brother Seals in Ferguson, who mysteriously lost his life. May Allah be pleased. But a couple of more things before we get a little deeper on this. AJP program for education and jobs. Adoption of AJP, a public-private program that provides access to jobs and education and or training for those willing to put in the work and commitment. This, of course, reminds me of the Muslim program again. We want equal education, but separate schools up to 16 for boys and 18 for girls, on the condition that the girls be sent to women's colleges and universities. We want all black children educated, taught, and trained by their own teachers. Under such schooling system, we believe we will make a better nation of people. The United States government should provide free all necessary textbook and equipment and so forth, as the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad so brilliantly displayed. And last but not least, this being the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March, I saw it to be it was so beautiful to see Brother Ice Cube save the probably the best part of this for last. The best part of the contract with Black America for last. And that is black responsibility. He says chronic poverty creates actions full of negativity, frustration, and so forth that lead to crime and violence. These are some of the conditions that plague the black community. And I like what he says further down, where he says that it is a two-way street. The contract with Black America is a two-way street. So that is in the spirit of the Million Man March. The Million Man March, family, to those not familiar, it was not us going to Washington, black people going to Washington begging the white man for something, crying at his door, throwing a hissy fit. That's not what it was about. It was about atonement. It was about us making our own communities a decent and safer place to live. It was about self-responsibility, self-improvement. Self-improvement. So he finishes it with that self-improvement. Shout out to everybody chiming in. Nation Town TV. We got Brother Billy Bland, Antisha Hall, Peggy Watson, Sandra Thomas. Shout out to Sister Sandra X. Muhammad Moss number 27. Let me go through these comments, because I do want to get the Nation Town family involved. Brother Lakeem said it wouldn't have been an issue had he went to the Biden campaign, of course, and we're going to touch on that in a minute. Definitely. J. Mo says we all have made some mistakes in ourselves in life, but through learning and our growth, the tools around us that hold substance makes better choices. So don't judge a brother for doing and using his platform to open eyes. Listen, we sit up here and get mad at all these rappers. I feel you, brother. We get mad at these rappers. We get mad at Cardi B, who met with Joe Biden, by the way. But she didn't apologize for the image that she put out there to little black girls with WAP, wet ass, you know. She didn't apologize for that image. And we all on her neck, all on her head. Well, some of us were. But here's somebody using his platform for something good for us. And we got a problem with it. Some of us have a problem with it. Brother Patrick says, I voted nationally as an independent and I went with Trump strictly business purpose. Locally, I voted Democrats in my town because we have real issue that has to be tackled. And we have that right. We have that right. And I appreciate you putting that out there, Brother Patrick. Sister Sandra says, Allah says to love and lift all our brothers and sisters who seek love and justice for all our black families. And we are committed to lift each other up and out of bondage. Some questions should be asked directly from my brother Ice Cube, and a negotiation among our blacks in this nation should be made if it includes us all, not just only benefits only. No man is an island or a nation. The true answer or decision can be pulled from one man's pocket. I feel you on that. But we all have a individual job to do. And our problem is that we sit back waiting on one man or one woman. And if they do just one little thing that we don't like, then there's an uproar. But the whole time we had an opportunity to either mobilize or do something for ourselves, and we failed to do it. Like the analogy I gave about my childhood and cleaning up my room. If you don't do it, somebody else will. And when somebody else does it, if you didn't do it yourself, you have no grounds to be mad at them. Even if you don't agree with what it is that they bring to the table. You bring something to the table. It's not too late just because somebody did it first. You do it better or mobilize better. But whatever we do, we should be happy to see that kind of sign of life from our people, from our entertainers, from whoever who use their platform, like the brother said, to go forward. Brother Billy Bland says, I ask you who have a problem with Cube's contract to present yours. There it is. There it is, Brother Billy. There it is. Absolutely. Sister Sandra says, Bilderberg runs everything. Look them up. They run everything. The Bilderbergers run everything that we allow them to run. We got to get out of this powerless mindset. That's why we think our life and death depends on some raggedy vote. It's because we think, and that's really the reason why we get so entrenched on YouTube with these Illuminati, conspiracy theories. And a lot of it is rooted in truth. But a lot of us like to talk about that kind of stuff because it gives us an excuse to not do anything substantial. Oh, it ain't going to work anyway because the white man gonna always do this, and he doing all these rituals and stuff. So I don't do that. So it's nothing I can do, and that gives us the leeway to go and just be niggas for the rest of the day. Nobody has more power over our condition than we do, other than God Himself. But that's the thing. Someone else is sitting on the mantle of God in our mind, and I think we know who that is. Ronald Muhammad says, I support Cube. All praises due to Allah. My big brother Tevis Muhammad. While Lake of Salam soldier, Brother Herb said they mad because they know he's down with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Absolutely. Absolutely, brother. So let's get a little further. We went over the contract. And that was the main thing I wanted to do. I wanted to get through the contract because I don't see nobody talking about that. Those on either side of the table have not actually talked about the contract. And if you say you stand with Cube, it's kind of disrespectful to stand with him but not stand with what he's bringing to the table, because I haven't seen anybody actually go into it and see what's actually in there. I actually saw more detailed information about Trump's so-called platinum plan, which I also read, and I see a little bit of this contract in that. But it's very vague, very vague. But I saw people get into that more Then they got into our brother's contract with Black America. And let's be clear, for going back to those same people that are saying, "Oh, he's just a rapper. He can't speak for everybody." Let's keep in mind that right now, the sitting president of the United States of America never held a public office prior to holding that office. He was a real estate mogul who had filed for bankruptcy several times and was most famous to just this generation for being on a reality show. With that assumption or that insinuation that our brother's not qualified. If you black and in America, you qualified. But let's deal with the attempt to cancel our brother. Cancel is this ridiculous thing that came up out of black Twitter. And I'm starting to realize now, as you notice, those that follow Nation Town TV, and if you also are on Twitter, you probably notice that Nation Town is not active on Twitter. For two reasons. One, I just don't like Twitter's setup. It's just not a comfortable setup. We may get active on it soon. We may or may not. I'm not mad at people that are. But another reason that we've been hesitant to go to that Twitter sphere is because it seems to be hijacked by the same element that hijacked the George Floyd movements, that hijacked, the so-called Black Lives Matter movement. It's this black feminist, anti-black, heterosexual male type thing that Twitter has turned into, that black Twitter has turned into, that I just don't like. So now canceling is whenever somebody, particularly a black man, says something that they don't like or does something that they don't like, they say, okay, we're not a fan of them anymore. We're not watching their TV show. We're not. And I'm going to tell you the ridiculous thing about that. Because we have 450 plus years of absolute, unequivocal wickedness that has come from the Caucasian, particularly here in America and all over the world, and we have yet to cancel him. You still shop at his stores. You still go to his coffee shops. You still want to live in his neighborhoods. You still want to send your children to his schools. You still are with him. So don't ever tell me about canceling my brother or my sister. But I've noticed it ain't been that many black women that they've called on us to cancel. Interesting. They got plenty of photos of Oprah lovey-dovey with Donald Trump, but I haven't seen nobody talking about canceling her. But when a black man comes forward and he does something that you don't like, we need to cancel him immediately. And all his works, like it says in the Bible. Listen, man. Cancel one white man. Cancel one white institution. And then we'll talk about canceling a black man, especially a black man whose whole career has been laced with justice and equality and salvation for black people. He put it in his own gangster way, Brother Ice Cube, but he has always stood up. From his first album all the way to today, to his most recent album, he's always stood up for us. But check this out. These are just a couple of stories that popped up after this news broke. Now, here's what the Trump campaign did that was extremely shady. For the sake of trying to get the black vote, particularly the black male vote, they tried to take this as an endorsement. They tried to say that Ice Cube endorsed Donald Trump, or that they sat down and they met, like I said, ate a piece of chicken and all of that. Just never happened like that. He presented it to the people first, the Democratic Party second, and then the third was the Republican Party. They contacted him, both Republican and Democratic Party. The Democratic Party gave him a pat on the head. The Republican Party said, let's look into this right now. Let's look into this right now. And this is the sitting party. This is the sitting presidential party, the Republican Party. And they said, let's look into this now. Why would he have a problem with it? I mean, hell, when you put in an application for a job, When you put in a loan application for a house or a car, who do you think that application is going to? You think it's going to some Democrat? You think it's going to some Black Lives Matter weirdo white girl with a bull ring in her nose and a rainbow tattooed on her neck, with a Black Lives Matter fist with a rainbow background T-shirt on? You think she's the one that's looking at your application and saying what? No. It's going to be a white boy in a suit, a white man in a suit, who votes Republican everything. He don't even care who it is. He just, when he see that R in the parentheses, that's who he votes for. That's who's looking at your application. When you put in an application for an apartment, car, business loan, house loan, these are Republicans looking at your stuff. So Ice Cube put forth an idea. And there was a Republican who accepted it and said, well, we'll actually implement this into our agenda. That's what it is. When you get approved for that car, get approved for that house, you jumping up and down. You posted it on Facebook. Oh, I am so blessed. Ice Cube ain't even jumping up and down because he still is very hesitant to see, or very skeptical that either party will ever enact any of this. He just presented it out there. Closed mouths don't get fed. That's the way I was raised. But on these are two mainstream media outlets that kind of kicked off the whole cancel Ice Cube. Now read this. The inside story of how Ice Cube joined forces with Donald Trump. That's Politico. Los Angeles Times. To understand why some black men support Trump, start with Ice Cube. Ice Cube is nothing like these Negroes that are walking around with Make America Great Again hats, first of all. They didn't even grow up listening to Ice Cube, most of them. I guarantee you, they grew up listening to Nirvana or country music. Man, they wasn't listening to Ice Cube. He is nothing like them, but they are putting that out there because this is their media and they dictate their own agendas. So you got to ask yourself as a black man and woman, who are you listening to? Whose media are you going by? It can't be the final call. It can't be the final call. That's what Ice Cube is going by. He's going by the final call. You can read the contract itself and you see that he's going by the final call. And we got this really ugly mentality when it comes to leadership. And I blame and I charge the white man. I charge the white man for bringing this mentality in our mind because now it's the only thing that we respect. We're used to the white man just giving us a pat on the head, false promises, welfare crumbs, and we're used to seeing him starting wars. So those are the only types of leadership that we respect. There were people on Facebook over the weekend, you know, with all of the publicity about this being the 25th anniversary of the Million Man March. People asking questions like, "Oh, what the nation got to say about George Floyd and this and that and that?" Because they think the nation is not doing anything because they're so used to this version of leadership that this white man has laid on your mind. This white man likes to do pomp and circumstance. He likes to get out and have a press conference and, you know, and say, "Oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this," and then won't do a damn thing. But in your Negro slave heart, you feel good because that's all you ever wanted from your slave master anyway, is a little bit of acknowledgement. Or they give you a few crumbs. They give you a little $1,200 check or something. They give you a little. After 9/11, he gave out this little $300 check and Negroes were so happy. We always see him starting wars. Wars that are really a lot of times are just diversions from other wickedness that he's involved in. He'll drop a bomb. Bill Clinton dropped a bomb on Kosovo. Not because it was necessary, because he wanted to change the narrative for Monica Lewinsky and that stain on her dress. So we think it's cute when a bunch of black people just get together with guns and stomp around the city with guns with no bullets in it. Because see, we following Master's example. That's what he does. He picks up a weapon and he does something on the world stage to take our minds off the fact that he's done nothing for his own people here in America. He wants to liberate Kuwait, liberate Iraq, liberate Afghanistan, when Flint ain't liberated, when Flint don't have clean water. See? So that's what we used to. We gotta take that mentality out of our mind. We gotta understand what real guidance and real leadership is. And I gotta touch on something else real quick, family. Shout out to everybody chiming in, all the Nation Town family. Brother Billy says, you may want to check beneath the surface of this cancel culture, and you will be shocked to see who's there. Absolutely. And if you check beneath and you see a black face, you ain't digging deep enough. Even if it's one of these Black Lives Matter feminists, you're not digging deep enough. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Brother J. Mo says, let's understand Ice Cube presented his contract 2 weeks prior to Trump putting out his agenda. So it's safe to say Cube's agenda is used in Trump's agenda. So he can claim it as his. Look it up. That's a fact. That's a fact. Sister Peggy says tricknology. Absolutely. It's absolutely tricknology. Now, I got to go back to this whole thing about voting in general. We ain't going to be on much longer, but I got to touch on this. Because Q struck a chord with black people because we are hypnotized by the Democratic Party. I don't know why. I mean, I know why, but I don't. I know we got that New Deal from Eisenhower back in the day, and that kicked off the whole welfare mentality and the welfare generation, which is one of the worst things that ever happened to us. The introduction to welfare in our communities and integration are the two worst things that ever happened to the black community. Make no mistake. But this idea about ancestors, I was just in Leimert Park yesterday, and it was these feminist sisters marching around. There was about 11 of them with picket signs talking about rape culture, which is an important topic, you know, respecting and protecting our women. But I noticed something really ugly in that crowd. It was about, out of 12 of them, it was about 11 of them were black. No, I say about 10 of them were black. And then there was these two white girls walking with them. And the white girls were quiet. They weren't chanting. It was almost as if they were supervising the whole movement. And it reminded me of how they used to do church back in the day in slavery. When they first started letting us have church services on the plantation, it would be a white man sitting in there, maybe a couple of white men, making sure two things. One, that we kept him and his white people at the top of our minds, and two, that we stayed out of the books of Exodus and the books of Numbers. That's a fact. Some slave masters would rip that out of the Bible, literally rip it out before they gave a Bible to a slave, because of course those two chapters deal specifically with the freeing of slaves. And you know the Quran was nowhere on any plantation, because the Holy Quran in Surah 2, Ayat 177, talks about how Allah loves those that free slaves. But the question of voting and how our ancestors died so we could vote and all of this kind of foolishness, I gotta beg the question. If you were able to get into an 85 DeLorean and go back in time, and you found a slave ancestor, or an ancestor that was living in slavery is the better way to say it, and you gave them the choice, which would you rather see? Would you rather see a time where you would be able to pick which slave master got to whip you and work you from can't see in the morning to can't see at night? Or would you want to see a all black community and black businesses thriving like a black Wall Street? Which one did you want to see? Well, they answered the question because the first thing black people did when we got out of chattel slavery is that we went straight into business. But it is so disrespectful to our ancestors to insinuate that those that went through stuff like this, those that lived in situations and environments like this, in squalor, sisters who had to deal with slave masters like this, who raped them sometimes at gunpoint, that all they want to do is pick which one of these devils gets to rule over them. Look at this sister. I want this to really sink into your brain. That's a sister sitting in the middle between two white boys. I don't know what kind of sick, twisted idea they had before taking this photograph, but this struck me when I saw it, because this is the situation that we're in every election year. This sister has to sit up here and choose which armed devil is going to rule over her. Now, she might consider the one to her right to be the worst one because his gun is actually pointed right at her head. But she thinks the one on the left is somehow better simply because he's got his gun pointed away from her. But he's still a devil. He's still a slave master. And he's still armed. And he'll do away with her at a moment's notice. Our babies that grew up in slavery, you think they give a damn about choosing which slave master? They dreamed of black enterprise. They dreamed of what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad introduced us to, doing for self. That's what they dreamed of. They didn't dream of no damn ballot box. They didn't dream about none of that. And last but not least, family, before we get up out of here, I noticed something with this Black Lives Matter contingent, which these days, it's changed rapidly over the last few years. These days, it's basically all feminist black women. But I noticed something. They like to throw our ancestors' names around. And then they want to exalt Harriet Tubman. They want to exalt Nat Turner. And I'm going to bring up something that one of the founders of Black Lives Matter said about Ice Cube that I'm going to have to expose with all due respect. But right now, as a generation, I got to talk to my generation. If you were born anywhere between 1970 and now, keep Nat Turner's name out your mouth. Especially if you're the type that believes that your salvation is rooted in some kind of ballot box. That your salvation is rooted in whether or not one white man is the president or not. One particular white man. We didn't somehow we've somehow taken 400 or 500 years of absolute oppression and put it on the lapel of one white man who's only 70 something years old. Didn't own one slave. Didn't own one slave. But please keep Brother Nat Turner's name out your mouth. Keep his name out your mouth, because when he ran up on the enemy, going from plantation to plantation, this is a artist's rendition of one of those situations. That's Nat Turner on the left. That's a devil on the right. I guarantee you right there, Nat Turner is not asking, are you a Democrat or a Republican? As you see what he has in his right hand, he coming for war. And he don't give a damn what your political agenda or your political stance is. So I don't know why we're so entrenched and so committed to a political party and a political system that has never been, ever been committed to us. Ever been committed to us. A black man or woman cannot point to one instance in our sojourn in North America where voting truly improved our lives. And please keep our ancestors' names out their mouth, because Nat Turner, Hannibal, Shaka Zulu, they will wipe up the floor with y'all walking around here with a fist superimposed over a rainbow flag. He would mop up the floor with y'all. You would be the kind that Harriet might have to shoot, because Harriet wasn't in the business of choosing a slave master. I'm sorry, Kanye. She also wasn't in she didn't have a job placement program either. All she offered to the slave was, I'm going to get you up out of here. What you do after that is on you. And I'm noticing this I got to deal with it. And y'all know, if y'all follow me on Facebook and whatnot, y'all know I'm totally against this whole, battle of the sexes, gender war type thing. But I'm noticing this culture of feminism, which always follows a culture of black pride and black consciousness. It happened in the 60s, and now it's happening now, because they know that that's the easiest way to turn the switch off on our consciousness, is to cause us to argue with each other. But as I mentioned before, Nation Town TV, when there are problems in our relationships, we don't hesitate to seek other options. Right now, you got black women who think it's a badge of honor to go out and date someone outside of their race. You got black men who think it's an honor. They even think it's a strategy. Well, every black woman I was with, she did this and that to me, so let me go see what white women, what Asian women, what Hispanic women, what they got to say. Well, that's the same thing Ice Cube is doing. Sister, when you say you just done with black men because they niggas ain't this and niggas ain't that, and you doing something else, you just doing yourself, you doing this and all that, whatever. That's what Cube is doing. Cube is tired of playing that same game with the Democrats. I'm tired of the whole game. You can throw the whole damn game out as far as I'm concerned, but he tired of that side of the game. But he still offered it to anybody that would take it. Let's throw away this devil like we throw away each other. Sister, throw away this Democratic Party and this devil just like you throw away your man. Throw him away. Baby with the bathwater. And let me close with this, because this was something that really bothered me. Really bothered me. There's a sister by the name of Alicia Garza. She is one of the 3 black female founders of the organization known as Black Lives Matter. Now be very careful, because there are a lot of things that have been done over the years in the name of Black Lives Matter that were actually good, but they were not actually under the organization of Black Lives Matter. But Alicia Garza, she got on television as well as Twitter and basically attacked our brother Ice Cube. And what this brought to mind was the fact that somebody is perpetrating a fraud right in front of our eyes, but we're on the wrong codes, so we don't see it. They talk about being on code. See, we on the wrong code, so we don't actually see it. See, the thing about this consciousness life, the thing about this woke life, you got to really live that life. And we got to know who's living that life before we start following the leader on who to cancel and who we think is a sellout. We got to start looking at their lifestyles. Like me as a Muslim, Islam is really a lifestyle. It's not a religion. I can wear all the bow ties I want. I can go get me a dusty kufi. I can go get me a jalabia and some sandals. I can go get a whole camel and ride it around speaking Arabic, doing the Adhan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. But if I go home and I eat a pork chop, I have 9 wives, even though the Quran says you should only have up to 4, and really only one is better for you. I'm slack talking my brother. I'm stabbing my brother in the back. I'm not keeping my promises. I'm not doing anything that a Muslim is supposed to do. My lifestyle nullifies me from what I say I am. That's why lifestyle is important. So be careful when somebody is put in front of you by CNN as your leader, as your talk. Listen, they playing the same game they played with Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. I used to ask myself as a young man, who put them in charge? At least Jesse Jackson really ran for an office and did decent. Al Sharpton ran for president 19 times and get like 2% of the vote. Who told CNN that these are the people that speak for me? And what have they done in order to hold that position? Well, have that position. We got to look deeper. Even in this day and age where we got these people who are pleasing to our eye because they walking around, they dressing like us, they looking like us. Remember, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, they look and dress like the generation they came from. So now we see a brother with skinny jeans or a sister with a t-shirt on and dreadlocks in her hair, you know, saying Black Lives Matter. And we think, oh, they're for me. And then they point you to somebody and say that one is a sellout because he actually dialogued with the sitting president of the United States. But if you look closer, you'll see that somebody is perpetrating a fraud. Let me show you what our sister said. And before I get into this, let me be very clear. She's still my sister and I love her. I love all parties involved because I'm about to just keep it all the way 100. But here's what she said. She said she talked with Ice Cube yesterday on Roland Martin's show. And she say, ain't no movement on an agenda without a movement. Basically saying you can't do nothing without her organization, Black Lives Matter. Justice isn't a business transaction. Says who? That's our problem. We're not approaching justice with the actual facts. Business transactions, contracts, deal only with actual facts. That's why this white man is always getting us with contracts, because we don't actually read the contracts. But she says justice isn't a business. I don't know where the hell she got that from. Demons. Who is she calling demons? Demons always make deals, but they rarely follow through. What kind of demon is she talking about? Is she talking about the same kind of demons and devils that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us about? Maybe so. Don't matter if we make it for him. This is Alicia Garza. I hope you can see her handle up there on the top left, her picture, her avatar. Well, you know what? Let me give you a closer picture of her. That's her on the right. Black Lives Matter founder. And to the left, that is a woman that is not black. And that is her wife. I'm not passing judgment. These just actual facts. Remember what I said. Lifestyles. But she's telling us how we can get racial justice for our people. Lifestyles. She's mad at Ice Cube because he took his program to all parties. And she feels like the wrong party, number 45 as she calls it, actually took a look at it. But the party that she's okay with Cardi B going to, let's look at them. Again, emphasis on lifestyles. No judgment. No judgment. You can love who you want to love. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said love is a powerful, powerful thing. And sometimes it can lead you to somebody that don't look like you. Lifestyles. But the coon in the situation, the sellout in the situation, lifestyles. Beautiful black family. Been married to Sister Kim since I was in high school. I got a beat from Kim, and she can do it all night. He was talking about his wife. You probably, when you first heard that, you thought he was talking about some groupie. Talking about some female like these rappers always talk about running through women. He was rapping about his wife. I got a beat from Kim, and she can do it all night. Beautiful family. Son looked just like him. An up-and-coming actor. Did a beautiful job portraying his father in Straight Outta Compton. Whoa, but he's the sellout. He's the sellout, but this is the boat you need to jump on. They the ones keeping it real. They bout it. Like my man say, like Rappaport say on that movie Bamboozled. They keeping it real. They're keeping it real. But this is the sellout. On her organization's website, and they removed it because it was getting exposed all over social media. On her website, it pointed out that they were actually, that Black Lives Matter is against the classic nuclear family, which means mother, father, children. They're against that. They're saying that if you even have a desire for that, it's something wrong with you. And they're going to fight you just like they fight injustice. That's what it, paraphrasing, that's what their purpose was. Last time I checked, if you click on that, it says 404 error. They took it off. But that's what she stands for. That's what they stand for. What does Ice Cube stand for? Whether you like what he's doing or not, this is what he stands for. He said it himself on the interview on CNN. He said, I'm doing this for my nephews, my cousins, my children, my people. I'm also noticing another little, underlying move that they're trying to make on the Democratic side. And I'm going to talk to my brown family, my so-called brown family, my Hispanic family, my indigenous family. They're going to try to use this as a way to draw a wedge between the black, not only between the black man and the black woman, but also black people and our indigenous family, our Mexican family. Don't let them play you like that. Don't get played. Like Cube said, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Cube is the owner of a very successful movie production company called Cube Vision. It brought you the Friday movies. It brought you all those movies that he made. His 50-50 partner in that endeavor, or I think a 60-40 partner in that endeavor, is a Hispanic brother named Joe Alvarez. Don't fall for the okie doke. Because there are a lot of our Hispanic family that really hate Trump. I understand. Trump is almost on Hitler status with our brown family because of how he's got these children, these babies in cages in Texas and New Mexico. I feel you on that. I don't give a damn about Trump. I give a damn about my people, so I'm with Cube on my people, not on Trump, because Cube don't give a damn about Trump either. But let's say, I don't know, let's say some Hispanic artist brings out, or some Hispanic actor or actress brings out some type of agenda. Edward James Olmos, I don't even know if he's still alive, but if he brought an agenda to help get them babies out of them cages in those modern concentration camps, and Joe Biden patted him on the head and said, oh yeah, we'll look into it after the election. But then the Trump campaign grabbed it and said, you know what, we're going to do something about it right now. Get all them babies out them cages. And they took them off the cages. What will that tell you about the Democratic Party? Or will you remain on that plantation, hypnotized, thinking that it ain't even salvation unless it come out of the hand of a so-called Democratic white man? Stop eating out of their hands at all. Our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb. With that said, family, to answer the question, should we cancel Cube? If you black and you proud, hell no. If you ignorant, if you a Negro, if you think that the resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue is the end all and be all of our salvation, then do what you want to do, because you ain't going to have long to do it anyway. There's a separation going on right now in our society. And those of you who are married to your enemy, who want to pick and choose your slave master, you want to cherry pick a slave master, your time is up, man. Your time is up. And Ice Cube and what he's doing is a beautiful sign of that time being up. So with that said, family, I appreciate y'all chiming in. Let me check the comments real quick before I get out of here. Sister Anissa says, nice program, Brother Landon. Proud of you, sir. Thank you so much. Future Dr. Anissa Muhammad. Yes, ma'am. Jerome Horace. If they say the poor is getting poor and presenting a contract to either side is a dead end, the two parties are competing. I agree to a certain degree. Sister Anissa says, what does being on code actually mean? Well, it's kind of like woke. It's something that they didn't pull out of their behind, but it's another thing that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad has always brought to us. Woke really means knowledge of self, knowledge of God, knowledge of the devil. But the cool modern way to say it is being woke. Being on code simply means unity. Simply means unity. You know, if we say, you know what, we ain't messing with nobody,